What I want to do now is I want to lay out a little bit what's coming. This class, this is my 34th day of this, my second video, and in a way we're at a turning point. I will go back to the chronological survey to some extent. I'm going to go back to Shakespeare to some extent, but tomorrow I'm going to start with linguistics. And linguistics is going to lead into these other things. I would tell you that if you're watching this and you know of somebody that you think maybe would get something from this class, especially I think of homeschoolers, tomorrow would be a good place to start, even if they hadn't been watching so far. The other stuff, I'll use abbreviations and things, but after I get started tomorrow, it's going to be harder, I think, for those who haven't been with me from that point on, because my approach to these languages is going to be, to a large extent, the approach of a linguist. Now, linguistics is the you don't have to write this down. Linguistics is the study, the science of language, and I'll deal with that basically this week. I'll be talking linguistics, but after it, I'm going to move into what most people think of as grammar, as English grammar. But I didn't use the word. I separated it into what's called morphology and then syntax. Morphology basically deals with the parts of speech, and syntax deals with the parts of sentences. You see, already this is a linguist's approach to grammar. I will use this word. I'll talk about this word as a linguist talks about the word this week a little bit. But that's not what I like to describe my course as. Because for one thing, I will not include usage. I'm not, a lot of grammar teachers are going to spend time on what they feel is correct usage, or at least discussion of usage. That's a different subject, really, from grammar. Punctuation is really a different subject. And I might or might not, later in the year, teach about punctuation. I don't know, but it is not necessarily involved in grammar. And spelling. The spelling that I do usually has to do with class vocabulary. These are different subjects. These are different subjects from grammar. So it's going to be rather pure, and it's going to be traditional. Sometimes I can get across to at least older teachers, if I get it across, if I say I'm going to teach traditional grammar. It's been abandoned practically for 20 years, maybe even 30 years. There's been a movement away from traditional grammar, and I think it's been a mistake. And when you go on to study a foreign language, especially if you've never been taught traditional grammar, I think it's hard. It's quite possible to learn to be fluent in Spanish, I suppose, without being able to discuss the grammar. But Latin, for example, boy, if you haven't studied traditional grammar in English, it's going to be harder. So in any case, I'm going to take care of that. It's just going to be some rough going between now and Christmas. Morphology and syntax. I may lose some of you, and yet I love this subject. I think it's really fun, and a lot of my students thought it was fun as well. But it may be rough going as we go through that. It'll be very different from what I've been doing. Then I'm going to turn to Spanish, then I'm going to turn to French, then I'm going to turn to German, and then Latin and Greek. Now, it's just going to be a taste. I'm in no way going to be teaching you how to speak Spanish or how to speak French. And Latin is going to be almost just vocabulary. It may only be vocabulary, because it's just going to be a taste. And Greek also, just vocabulary. I'm just going to give you a taste of it. And why I'm doing this is when I taught 8th grade, those students had to make a decision, were they going to take a foreign language or not at high school. And if they did, here were the three. Spanish, French, and Latin were the three that they were offered. Which one should they choose? And I wanted them to see, well, what are these languages like? German was not offered, and still is not offered in that school district. And so often I had students that they really wanted to learn some German. Well, I've pretty much made my mind up that if I finish this class this year, I doubt if I'll start it before the end of this year, but then I'm going to go on in another year to teach German. I'm confident enough that I can do that now. And German is, it's such I want to say, delicious language, potentially, to somebody who speaks English. There is so much reason to study German. And so that's going to come, so I'll give you a taste of that as well. But it all begins really tomorrow with linguistics. I'm going to explain some things about language itself, and then we're going to start to really work on it. Although, if you think, oh, where's the fun going to be? Well, this is going to be fun, I think. But I'm also going to continually go back to the chronological survey and keep varying the class. So it doesn't only become a class in what most people would think of it as grammar. I don't know if I've been clear on this, but I want you to give a little bit of time to think about, should you let anybody else know about this class, and see how it goes. So that's it for today. Not too much new that I'm really teaching you, but tomorrow we'll get going on linguistics, a favorite subject of mine.